The river had always flowed without a pause, but last summer the water began to slow down. By the time autumn came around, it wasn't flowing at all. It just stopped. No ripples, no current, no whisper in the reeds. Only silence where life used to move. That is, the day the river stopped speaking. The wise farmer stood on the bank, hat in hand, wondering what it meant when something that always flowed suddenly refused to move. "My son, let not them depart from thine eyes. Keep sound wisdom and discretion. Then shalt thou walk in thy way safely, and thy foot shall not stumble." If you're still here listening to the wise farmer, thank you. Go ahead and like, share, and subscribe. It's free, me son. Every click helps Life's Lessons with Maria grow and keeps these stories of wisdom reaching the people who need them most. They say the river never lies. It's an old truth, one passed down through generations, whispered like a prayer. The river is the lifeblood, the constant current that marks the passing of days, the turning of seasons. It has always been a source of wisdom. Its steady flow, a promise that life, no matter how turbulent, continues onward. It carries away sorrows and brings new beginnings with the tide. But that morning, it went silent. Not just quiet, but a profound, unnatural stillness had fallen over the valley. The familiar song of the water, the gentle lapping against the banks, the gurgle over smooth stones, it was all gone. Replaced by a silence so deep, it felt like the world was holding its breath, waiting. There were no ripples, no current, no whisper in the reeds, just still water that refused to move. It was a mirror, perfect and unnerving, reflecting a sky that seemed just as motionless. A single droplet of dew clung to a blade of grass, a tiny jewel suspended in time, refusing to fall. The river had become a painting, a memory of what it once was. The wise farmer stood on the bank, his old straw hat clutched in his hands. He had known this river his entire life. He'd seen it swell with spring rains until it raged, and shrink in the dry summer heat until it was just a trickle. But he had never seen it like this. Never seen it stop. He wondered what it meant when something that always flowed, something you built your life around, suddenly ceased to be. Was it a warning? A sign of a drought deeper than any he had ever known? The river had always been a symbol of resilience, of nature's enduring power. To see it so utterly still felt like a betrayal, as if a fundamental law of the universe had been broken. The sun began to climb higher, its rays cutting through the mist, but the light brought no warmth, no comfort. It only illuminated the unsettling tranquility of the water. The river had stopped, and with it, time itself seemed to pause, leaving the wise farmer Eugene alone with the silence and a question that echoed in the vast, quiet emptiness. Weeks before that silence, the village was loud with a restless worry. It wasn't a sound you could pinpoint, but one you could feel in the air, thick and heavy as the dust that settled on everything. It was in the anxious glances shared over fences, the hushed conversations that died down when a child ran past, and the weary sighs of mothers looking at the sky, praying for a sign. The wind itself seemed to carry the collective anxiety, whispering through the dry leaves of the cornstalks and rattling the window panes at night. The great river, usually the lifeblood of the valley, had shrunk to a shallow whisper, its banks receding to expose cracked mud that baked hard under the relentless sun. Rain had vanished for what felt like an eternity. The sky remained a vast, indifferent canvas of pale blue, day after day. In their desperation, the farmers took to their fields, not with the joy of planting, but with the grim determination of a last stand. They were digging trenches through dust, carving shallow lifelines into an earth that offered back only powder and grit. Each scrape of the shovel was a prayer, each furrow a testament to their refusal to surrender. Amidst this landscape of doubt, the wise farmer was a quiet island of calm. He had planted his seeds weeks before anyone else, an act his neighbors saw as foolish optimism. Now his field lay as dry as all the others. The neat rows he had so carefully tilled were just lines in the dust, the seeds tucked beneath sleeping a deep and uncertain sleep. But the wise farmer saw something different. He saw potential. His field wasn't dead. not in the way a thing is truly gone. It was simply waiting, holding its breath in the quiet patience of the earth. His neighbor, a good man worn thin by worry, would often lean on the shared fence, shaking his head. "Patience don't fill a barrel, old man," he'd say, his voice raspy from the dust. "Faith won't make the clouds break." He gestured to his own empty rain barrels, their wooden staves shrinking in the heat. "We need water, not wishes." The wise farmer would simply offer a small, knowing smile, his eyes crinkling at the corners. He understood his neighbor's fear. It was a practical, sensible fear. But the wise farmer's own hope was rooted in something deeper than the soil. He knew that wells dug by human hands can run dry. He knew that barrels built to catch what is given can sit empty. But faith was a different kind of well, one that reached into an inexhaustible spring within the soul. He knew that wells run dry faster than faith runs out. The first week of the drought was a worry. The second, a growing fear. By the third week, a profound and heavy silence had fallen over the valley. The familiar sounds of life had retreated, replaced by the whisper of a hot, dry wind. Even the most resilient animals who had always found sustenance near the river had finally given up. They stopped grazing near the riverbed, their instincts telling them what the wise farmer Eugene's eyes could clearly see. The land was exhausted, gasping for relief. The river, once the farm's vibrant artery, was now just a memory etched in cracked earth. Each morning, the wise farmer Eugene walked the fields. The crunch of brittle stems under his boots was the only rhythm in the stillness. He wasn't just inspecting the damage, he was communing with the land, his heart aching with its thirst. He walked for hours, his lips moving in a constant, quiet stream of prayers. They weren't grand pleas for a miracle, but simple, whispered hopes for strength, for guidance, for a sign. He felt the weight of his ancestors on his shoulders, the generations who had trusted this land, and a desperate urge to begin to take root in his soul. His steps led him almost unconsciously to the edge of the old woods where the secret well lay hidden. His grandfather had shown it to him once, a reserve for the direst of times, its water deep and cold. The temptation was immense, a siren's call in the oppressive heat. He could feel the cool relief of the water on his hands, imagine the gurgling sound as it filled his buckets, the life it would bring back to the wilting plants. He reached out, his fingers hovering just inches from the heavy lid. He almost opened that same secret well. But in that moment of decision, a quiet voice, clear as a drop of water in the silence, spoke not to his ears, but to his heart. It said, "Wait." The word was simple, yet it held the force of 1,000 storms. Let the ground rest until it's ready to drink. Ready to drink? The idea was foreign. The ground was desperate, wasn't it? To force water onto this baked, hardened soil might only cause it to run off, wasted. The voice was suggesting a deeper wisdom, a patience that ran counter to his panic. He didn't understand it, not fully. It felt like a foolish risk, a denial of the one solution within his grasp. But the feeling of peace that accompanied the voice was undeniable. And so, with a deep breath that tasted of dust and faith, he obeyed. He turned away from the well. In that act of surrender, a new understanding began to dawn on him. He had been so focused on speaking, on asking, on pleading with the heavens, that he had forgotten to listen. He had been looking for a sign in the sky, but the guidance he needed came from within. Discernment, he learned, is not always a shout from the heavens or a dramatic sign. Sometimes it sounds like silence. It is the quiet space between the panicked thoughts, the patient wisdom that waits for us to stop hurrying and simply be still. Then one morning, before dawn, the wise farmer awoke to the laughter of rain. By sunrise, the river was roaring again. The fields soaked it in like mercy. But the neighbor's land, overwatered, overworked, washed away, everything he had forced to grow too soon, was gone. The wise farmer stood on the bank watching the river settle back. And he finally understood. Proverbs 3:5-6, KJV. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. True discernment begins with trusting God rather than our own logic. The silence wasn't punishment, it was protection. When the river stopped speaking, it was God's way of saying, "Be still until it's time." Discernment is knowing which silence comes from fear, and which silence comes from faith, a quiet, trusting peace. So if life ever feels like it's not moving, me son, don't force the flow. The same God who made the current also made the calm. Sometimes wisdom waits in the stillness. Wait a minute. You over here enjoying this story and ain't hit subscribe yet? Go ahead, like, share, and subscribe so we can keep the wisdom flowing, me son. Before you go, I have a riddle for you. Write your answer in the comments. Riddle me this, riddle me that. I stand by the water, yet I do not drink deep. I stay awake while others sleep. I use my hands, not my knees. Tell me, who am I meant to be?